Hey Laura,
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you? Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you.
I'm hoping I'm doing this right. This isn't this isn't my strong suit. But
You
so
know,
far, you got on, so far we're
yeah,
doing good.
you did it. We had to go remote for the past 2 years at school.
Oh,
So we're
really?
using like Google Meets and Zoom. It depends on like who's comfortable with what. And
Right,
it's like if I do 10 meetings a day, at least 5 of them go wrong.
right. Yeah.
Technology works, doesn't work.
Well, so far so good. Uh, how was your holiday season?
It was good. Half of our family went down with COVID,
Ah, geez.
so what was going to be a final holiday get together at the final hour, like 8 people went down.
Oh, man.
So, and I have to go for surgery this week too on Thursday, so we're staying away from everyone.
Yeah, it's just the way I've never seen it like this. I get the numbers every day of how many people got COVID in the community, and it's never been like this.
Yeah, it's so rampant. I went for my COVID test yesterday. I'm so thankful that I'm negative,
Right.
but people are all around you. You can't escape who is sick and who is not.
Yeah, I mean, I figure I'm gonna get it. I just don't want to get it, because my girlfriend's getting a knee replacement next week, and my daughter can have the baby any moment.
You're going to be a grandpa again.
Again, yeah.
How
Again,
nice.
another
That's
boy.
another boy.
Yep.
Wow.
And she went for a 4 mile walk with me on Sunday. She's just trying to, and I wanted to turn back, and she was like, no, we got to keep walking. I want to see if I can get this going. I was like, all right.
And she's got to
Michael's,
go,
I'm
she's got to
sorry,
go
what?
to the hospital.
Say that again?
She's going to have to go into the hospital. They're letting one person in with her?
Yes, I think just to her husband. You know, I'm taking my girlfriend to the hospital, and they said whoever takes you is the only person that's going to be allowed to visit you.
Yep. Same with me.
Wild, right?
It is wild. It's Sloan Kettering, and usually they let 2 people in, and you can go in, you can stay. They have a room that you can stay in. And every day it changed, and it whittled down to the fact where they shut down valet parking. They can drop me off. Jimmy can come in just to see me out of recovery for 1/2 hour, and then has to return when I can be picked up
Oh,
the next
geez,
day.
that's wild.
It's crazy.
It really is. When my grandson was born, he was born March 12th, 2020. So I went to see him March 13th, 2020. And I was in the hospital in her room. And as I'm leaving, I got into my car. She had him in Greenwich. I got into my car. I'm driving back to Mamaroneck. And she calls me and she says, Dad, good thing you came when you came. As soon as you walked out of the room, they said, that's it. No more visitors. Because it was just when the whole thing went to hell.
Wow. Lucky. Lucky that you had some normality.
Yeah. But now she's having she's having this other baby, and like we're still dealing with COVID.
It's got to get better somehow or another. It's either we have to put it down and just go on as usual,
Listen, the 1918 flu eventually ended, right? Things end.
Yeah.
Hi, Michael. Hi, Timmy. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, thank you.
Hey, Mr. Mayor, how are you? Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you too, both. We're waiting for a couple more people. Laura and I just going through our our lists of things that have gone wrong here.
Happy New Year.
Yeah, exactly. How was your New Year's, Tim?
It went well. Small friend gathering over at a friend's house. Very small. Everybody got COVID tested, vetted.
Your kids home from school or?
Yeah, my son's home for 4 weeks, and then my daughter just went back yesterday. So he's got a few more weeks to go.
Where's your daughter going?
She's a senior at Ursuline, New Rochelle.
Oh, okay. Okay, I thought she was in college. Okay,
Yeah, she'll be there in August.
good for her. Good for her.
Going through the college scene now. Yeah,
It's a trip, man.
yeah, it's crazy.
And Michael, how are you? How was your holiday season, Michael?
It went well. I was sick briefly, but well, I was sick for the week before going into Christmas. So that was annoying, but I'm feeling better now.
Good, good. Did you have COVID or?
No, I got 3 different types. I got a bunch of COVID tests. They were negative, so I guess it was just like a virus or something.
Just
Cold.
a regular flu. It's like such a relief to just get the regular flu.
Yeah, I feel like the regular flu is stronger this year too.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. I don't have an immunity to it. I know Lou's coming. Or Trustee Young, I'll call him. So let me call them and remind them. All righty, we got Manny coming, and I know Lou's going to be here in 1 minute. So we'll try and get started in a couple of minutes and get everybody back to their families within an hour. Um, All right, Lou's getting on. All righty. Okay, hi, Guy. How are you? Thank you all for coming here tonight and for your efforts. Just to catch everybody up, I don't, Laura and I are much more devoted Facebook users than most people. And we have the Facebook page up and running. I think I've sent invites to all of you so that you can both post on it and also invite others who have had similar experiences to do the same. In the 24 hours that we have been doing this, I think the last time I looked, it was about 60 people that had joined the group. which for a Facebook page in the first 24 hours is very, very good. I would, hope that, it would grow more and more. I know I've invited a lot of people who haven't yet accepted the invitation, but I imagine they will. But, it's the first step in getting those stories out there, right? Like right now, I'm sorry, we're up to 70 members now. So right now there's 70 members, which is very good. In my mind, one of the mistakes that the board made after this was not hiring a PR consultant to keep pushing this and to keep, putting this on the forefront of people's minds. Here we are in January, right? And the flood was September 1st, September 2nd. And, you go through the holidays and those of us who were flooded, all of you who experienced the flooding, and those of us who were, involved in, the aftermath, it's still right on the tip of our mind, right? But other people, who, not that they don't care, but that, they maybe sent a donation, maybe, sent in some clothes, and, they're back to their lives. And I don't expect other people to, be as committed to this as we are, but I think it's important for us to keep this on the front burner. You watch the news today and, you remember something that happened 3 months ago and there's no more talking about it because the news cycle, as Lou knows, better than all of us, especially today, is a 24-hour news cycle. So, they got to keep feeding the beast, right?
Yeah.
So what we have to do is make sure that our residents, the people who weren't flooded, but who live in this community and who will have influence over this and over the elected officials of this, keep this on the front of their mind. Because I truly do believe that when they're made aware of it, they really care. But, so that's why I think that this is a good first step. So for those of you who have not yet joined the Facebook page, just look in your invites. There should be an invite there to join it. And then, if there's people that should be invited that haven't been invited, invite them. And the more we can get out there, and I want people to share their stories, their experience, and their history. But let's try and keep it, that this is, the purpose of this is education, which we'll get to at another point. But right now, it's just allowing people to tell their tales, and we shouldn't have it all get posted at once either, right? I know Gina had a problem posting today, and I told her I'd look into it. I don't see why she shouldn't be able to post, but I also told her, you know what, it might be better if you didn't post today and post in a couple of days so that we have a steady stream.
Exactly.
Right, because it on Facebook too, as you get new posts, it turns up in somebody's inbox or whatever you call it, your home page, and then you hit it back again and you hit it back again. And I think a Facebook page is effective when people go there to see what's new, kind of, right?
Yeah.
So Laura, you've been very, very helpful and very involved in it. What's your impression of that?
Well, that I agree with you with the buildup. We don't want to flood that page. We want to trickle it in to keep everybody's attention.
Right.
I can keep posting for days just on what devastation and loss occurred at my home, but my concern is to try to get the word out that it's just really not happening to us. The water that we received here was in such a magnitude and such a force, and it came from so many different directions that
Right.
the next time that this happens, water finds its line and it moves to the next place, and it moves to the next place. It's not going to just stay here. It's going to move
Yeah, you're
as
right.
far as it can go. until it destroys somebody else's house or somebody else's neighborhood. And I think that's the message I want people to hear, is that this loss is just not the Flats loss or Harbor Heights loss or Scarsdale's loss. This is going to happen
Could happen to
your
you.
neighborhood. It could happen to anywhere. It could happen with coastal flooding. By the grace of God, coastal flooding didn't occur that day, and it was something else. That could have been a whole other horrible scenario.
Correct.
Just don't know how to make them, or how to get the understanding that this is an ever-growing process, and that we're really frightened and
Yeah.
scared, and we were trapped. And I mean, I'm saying that from my soul. I was trapped in my house.
No, I know. Yep.
And the next time, I'm not going to be able to get out of it unless I go to the second floor.
And I think you're right. I mean, not only was it much worse for you and for Tim and for Mike and for Manny and for everybody that lives down there, but people in different parts of the village that never got water in their basement before had a basement full of water. And I'm not comparing their having a basement full of water to your devastation, but I'm just saying, you know what I mean? Like, people, who never had to, the people in Washingtonville are used to moving the stuff out of the basement, right?
Well,
These-
yeah, well.
These are
I'm
folks
sorry.
that never moved stuff out of their basement, and it's like, what the hell is this? How did this happen? So I think you're right. It's going to get worse in the future.
And like you're saying, we're used to moving it out of the basement. Until 2007,
Right,
we didn't ever have to move anything out of our basements.
right,
And that's with the aquifer, and that's with the flooding that had occurred even previous to that. I mean, like David Castarella never got water, and he's right near the brook. That
Right.
day he got water. The Biancos across the street never received water. In all of these years, with all of the flooding, they had water. I mean, it's ever changing, and it came from everywhere. It didn't come from just the original, it didn't just come from the Mason. It came rolling off of 95. It came
Right.
from Underhill Avenue. It came from the ground. It came from the sewers. And you're right, it's just going to keep going, and we can't keep this quiet, and we have to be diligent to the fact that every time it rains, this can happen again.
Yep.
We need help quickly.
And Lou, when Laura says the brook, she's talking where the Sheldrick goes down Plaza Avenue.
I know, yeah.
Okay,
One of the things that Michael and I found when we were knocking on doors in the flats was that there's a lot of misinformation about where it's coming. I mean, when people told us, oh, they opened the floodgates upriver. Well, no, they didn't. But, people just heard that and they repeated it. People don't know what's happening. And what the last person, Ms. Abadi, just said, that it was coming from a lot of places. The water came out of the sky. It was a lot of rain, so it collected in our flood area. But the water was a result of this tremendous amount of rain, and people don't understand that. And what we basically need is a way to get water out of that area quickly, and that's what we need. And we need to to get everybody on board, because it can happen anywhere. It doesn't have to happen. I mean, it'll happen in the flats and Washingtonville because that's a low-lying area, but it can happen anywhere.
Right.
And we need to let people understand that.
Absolutely.
I agree.
Absolutely. And with the way we're surrounded, and with, sorry to say that we don't have systems in place to prevent the flooding in general, never mind the magnitude of what occurred September 1st.
right.
Right, and that informational piece has to continue to keep coming out, and that's part of the information that's not out around Washingtonville, around those areas that people moved in, that don't know about the history of this flood issue. And so we need to keep this up on the front burner at all times, 7 days, 365, just tell everybody, hey, this is what had happened. This is what goes on. And this is the process, how it works. Step 1, step 2, and kind of lay it out a whole picture for them so that they can understand when it rains, they understand exactly what could happen.
I think that's a great point, Tim. I think that, and what you said too is just keeping it on the forefront, right? Mike, you have your hand up, Michael?
Yeah, so yeah, I agree that we can grow this Facebook group, and we can make posts that are spread out and consistent, and hopefully I can get set up with LMC TV in a way that I can post videos like frequently interviewing people and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, can I just
yeah.
interrupt you there for a second? I mean,
No problem.
between you and Lou, interviewing for, starting with people on this page and then going out, and like, my thought was that maybe every 3 or 4 days or every week, have someone new, right? And keep the interviews to under 5 minutes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I completely agree. And what's good is maybe we could, like, for example, me or Lou or both of us, we could interview 5 or 10 people in one day, and then that
Right,
sort of
right.
like pre-packs the
And-
content for the week.
Right, and then then you have a couple of months worth of material.
And I think, and I want to say this because I want to remind people there's a tendency in Mamaroneck to say, yeah, that's the part of town that always floods. I get it, but they need to know that it's not going to be limited to that part of town
Right.
anymore in the future.
And it's also never, been of the magnitude that it is now. This between 07 and what just happened is just devastating. And I say this, really seriously, and it sounds like, just I'm going overboard, but I'm really not. That community can't stand more than 1 or 2 more of these events. People are just going to give up. And and then how that affects the rest of the village is, it's like taking the heart out of the community. And you can't live with the middle of your community, being barren and being deserted. It's that's going to affect all of us. But listen, I don't know. I give you all a lot of credit for having the courage and the strength and the stamina to rebuild all of this, so many times, and to live with the the constant fear of every time we get a big rainstorm, if it's going to affect you. So I mean, I really do think that not only is it critical for Washingtonville, but it's critical for the rest of the village. And I got an idea in my head about writing to the whole community about this, just so we start off the new year thinking about this. So, but that's one of the things that's going around. When I think about writing something, it usually runs around in my head for a couple of weeks until I get it right, and then I sit down sometime and I just sit down and write it. And I'll probably do that next week when I'm off next week. But I don't say that lightly. I really feel like this could be something that really ruins the community, and a hit we can't come back from. And so it behooves all the elected officials to do everything we can. If you care about the community, you should be doing it. But if you're elected official, it's your job.
I also came up with another idea. I don't know if it's feasible or if it's too far out there, but I think it might be a good idea if we could possibly somehow afford 2 types of lawn signs, like one, and we have a little link or a logo, but one lawn sign could say, "My house flooded, yours is next." And then another sign for people who didn't have their house flood could have something like, "Stop flooding past the Army Corps of Engineer plan." So that way it's like a sort of like visual remind, like everyone can see it whenever they're driving around.
That's a pretty good idea.
Yeah.
I could almost bounce off of what Michael just said, because I was going to lead into something else.
Go ahead, lead on.
Because his signs, if we're paying for those signs, right? Or somebody has to pay for them, like we're not giving them, like, here's a donation. Instead of having donations of, food and clothing and canned goods, we need dry wells. This neighborhood needs dry wells, and every homeowner should have something in place to have a catch basin. So here, our community, we have to find some sort of parallel plan to help us out so we can all of us can flood mitigate, because we're not getting any help from FEMA. We're not getting any help from our insurance companies. We're still battling, we're still rewriting policy. They won't give us money because we're those middle of the road people. We're forced to pay flood insurance that doesn't cover anything at all. And we have to continue paying it. We're stuck in the middle. We're stuck in the middle with our homes still in disarray. And we're still not able to get to the point where we're preparing our homes for a flood. We're just trying to put back sheetrock.
Can you explain to me what the dry well and catch basin, what we're talking about here?
So you could put 2 650-gallon dry wells, or you could dig down 4 feet and you could tar your whole foundation and try to make your basement, if you have a sub basement, some sort of, that is the only way to really stop water from coming in, is if you dig 4 feet on the outside and you tar and you seal on the outside. By putting it on the inside, water is coming in and ballooning in. So there are some steps you can take to flood mitigate your home to an extent that you can help out. But if you're the only person doing it and the person next door isn't doing it, and the person next door to that isn't doing it, then your catch basin can hold maybe 600 gallons of water back from your home, but it's not going to stop the next round of water coming from the next yard. It would have to be all for one or one for all.
So Tom, there could be something the village could do to encourage that. Yes.
Well, I hear what you're both saying, but what we got to look at, I mean, the first thing to do, and it's not a bad idea, is just to have an engineer look at it to see if that would be an effective flood mitigation. Because the problem in Washingtonville, and all of you know this, is if you dig down 2 feet of water, 2 feet of ground, you hit water.
Yeah.
Right.
So in any event, I mean, I've been telling people that whatever the Army Corps does, it's probably the first of a dozen things
Yes.
we need to do to really mitigate the issue. So this could be something that we individual people could do, maybe that we can encourage individual homeowners, including when they're flood damaged, to eliminate the basement apartments, to maybe raise the house, to or to do the things that are going to harden the community against future floods.
I mean, raising a house might be the best. There's the village is signed on to a letter to participate in a program of raising houses, and if folks want to have the government buy out their house. I mean, I'm not suggesting that, but there are some houses like on Howard Avenue. Everybody knows where the Baptist church is on Howard Avenue, and the houses that are on that side of the street, they've been like almost over the roof with flooding.
Yeah.
And I don't know how they become livable again. And let's face it, they're not mansions anyway, right? I mean, they're very small, very old houses that have now sustained these 2 huge flooding events.
So if you,
Yes.
and listen, I'm just
I
talking
don't know
off
how
the top of my head here, but if you rebuilt those houses by raising them, and by raising them I mean probably tearing down what's there and building something that's higher, and then underneath them have these kind of dry wells and catch basins that allow then you're turning something that contributes to the problem into something that mitigates it.
Yes. Yeah, actually, there is a house down there. Oh geez, I forget the name of the lady, a very sweet African-American lady used to live in it. And they raised the house and built new houses. She used to work for the village. She worked in a senior center. Her family lives on that street. If you go down Howard right before it turns, you see the 2 houses that are raised. Liz Covington. It was her house, and I think Jim Kaloran and his group built those 2 houses that are there now. And if you look at them, you park underneath the house. The
Mhm.
house is raised up, I don't
Yeah.
know,
Yeah,
10 feet. You know what I'm talking about, Laura, right?
Yeah, and it works. And
Yeah.
it works because her first floor was saved. I mean, of course,
Is
they
she
lost
still
their,
alive?
I don't think so. I think it's her children that are
Her
there,
children,
if I'm
okay,
not
yeah.
mistaken.
I was just thinking about that because
Yeah.
I haven't seen her in
She
10
was
years.
up there in age a bit.
Right, right.
But you like that, like down in the south, my brother-in-law is in Louisiana, like they have to move their cars to high ground, their houses are built, but that way, like, but that's the other issue here too, is that we got to thin out the car parking here because we can't, how are we going to move all these cars the next time this happens? We're going to be in that same situation. So it's like kind of a lot of things, a lot of moving parts that we have to put in place to be able to
Yeah.
have like an easy and smooth transition to evacuate. Like, my grandfather had dry wells in this yard for a long time, and it does catch the water, but it only catches the water to a certain extent.
Yeah,
And if everybody doesn't participate in it, then you catch everybody else's.
yeah. And-
It will help because, your landscaper or whoever else picks the right spot and the right pitch and they put it in. Like, it's not a DIY, you go and do it yourself. You really should have somebody.
Yeah, you
who
gotta have a
knows what they're
professional guy.
doing.
You gotta
help.
test the ground to make sure the ground percolates.
Yeah.
Because that water then has to dissipate.
Right, and it takes many days for it to slowly seep back into the ground without it causing any havoc.
I
like,
remember during '07, Tony Ryan was on the board, and Tony, just for those who don't know, I know a lot of lived on Waverly in a house her father built, and it's a 2-family with a basement, and and this probably happened to you guys too, but I saw it happen to her house. She pumped out the basement, pumped it out dry. Half a day later, basement's full again.
Came from the ground.
Just came right from the ground, but
Right.
like she hadn't even done anything.
Well, because we all have wells here too,
Yeah,
and they're all buried one way or another, not properly. My house is a 4th-generation house. My great-grandparents built this house. So somewhere on this property is a well that they covered and I will never find.
right.
That some of the neighbors do have them because you can see them and they're covered in the right way. Some of them are covered by a foundation. But and I'm just, as I walk around and as I take my walks and as I see things like, just even over by, when I call it the brook, like the junkyard, all those cars were flooded in Starpolis over the top, and all of that sediment is running into the brook. We have a construction company there that has huge, God bless him, whatever kind of business he has, but his equipment is so big that every day he's washing mud off that equipment and it's going into the brook. So we're adding layers and layers of soot into a brook that's already flooding.
Yeah, it's a good point.
And that scares me. I never begrudge like the industrial area. I grew up here my whole life, but it's gotten to the point for the quality of life for the village of Mamaroneck that doesn't work anymore, from having industry near the brook like that. It's not going to work considering we're in the situation we're in.
Yeah.
I mean, that water was so high that I'm still shocked by the height of it. Like, I'm still shocked how high that water got.
And how quickly it got high.
Yeah. I mean, I have one video of us out at 12:30 at night trying to pump out the backyard because I think we were all just stunned that the water came in that way. And we're like squeegeeing and trying to do all these crazy things because I think all 3 of us collectively just couldn't believe what was happening.
Yeah, yeah.
And then within like an hour and a half, it was to the top of my back steps. That's 7 feet.
Yeah. Tim, you got your hand up?
Yes, sir. So just to go back to the Tony Ryan Waverly Avenue point that you mentioned there, Tom, is that after the Ida came and went and the water went down, we had here on Washer Street 24 hours worth of pumping, and it was clear water. So that has to go back to the aquifer that's in our community here. It's a huge undertaking because that does add to the issue. You know, the water comes, it goes, then you got 24 to 32 hours or 2 days anyway of water that you're pumping out, and that's the aquifer.
And you said it's clear water.
Mhm.
Yes, sir. Yep.
Yeah.
So
it's
think of
definitely
this. So
groundwater.
after the Ida came and went, our basement was a mess like everybody else's, but we have a little catch area and that was clear. And so we started pumping that. The interesting thing, it was water, it was clear water
Right.
coming in through the foundation walls, just, you know, kind of pooling itself out, just draining. And it was clear water.
And how long did that last? 24
That,
hours?
that lasted till about 30 hours after. Yeah.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. And,
Yeah.
Our-
and where were you pumping it to? Right into the street or?
Right into the street, right into the curb. Yep.
That's the problem. Pure Foods used to use that water.
Yes.
And we like, Tim is 100% correct. I mean, to start as a parallel plan, besides, you know, mitigating your homes, we need to start draining that aquifer, using it to water the plants in the village, the fields,
Yeah.
to do whatever we need to do with it, but get it out of there because it's at full. Just like Con Ed, when they went and dug down on Center a couple of years ago, they went down 1.5 feet and they had to stop work because they hit the water.
Yeah, Lou, just so you know, where the apartment buildings are over there, the Avalon.
Yeah,
Years ago, used to be a company called Pure Foods that made soups and bouillons.
yeah.
And they exclusively took all their water from the aquifer.
So,
And there was
so
so
the
much water that during the 1965 drought
yeah.
that we had, Westchester County tried to buy water off Pure Foods.
So this is good water, good drinking water.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I one time I was in Mary Ann Ybarra's house over on New Street, and she's got a tap in the you know, that house I think is abandoned now, but she had a faucet in the basement, and she turned it on and she said, "This is well water."
Yep.
And you know, and I tasted it. It tasted fine.
Well, there's two things. There's two things that hit me there. One, that's a resource, but I also hear that it's a problem because it prevents water from percolating down.
Yeah.
So maybe we should figure out a way to develop that resource.
I think Laura's got a point there. You know, we could use it to water our stuff. I mean, you know, you can't use it for drinking water because the laws on drinking water now are you know, and we have great water. I mean, everybody gets great water from Westchester Joint Water.
I had a vision of Mamaroneck bottled water.
You know, the car wash used to use it as well. Dippy's
That's
used to
right.
dip in there
That's
and
right.
use that. I don't know.
Did it still
What-
use it?
I think something stopped it from happening when the Avalon was built.
Okay, yeah.
Because also the oil company next door that was there was an oil company over there,
Okay.
right where Sally Marino's old house was. Then
Uh-huh.
there was a piece of property right there, and that was an oil company, and then Dippy's.
So,
They used to use the water as well.
for those of you who don't know, Sally Marino is Sally Roberts.
Mhm.
That was her. She lived over on Old White Plains Road, right?
Yep. I mean, and if we could use that water as a resource, not to drink, but even if we could, you
Water
know,
the fields, like you
barter
said.
with other communities, if there's so much water that we want to drain off here, Harrison, Rhinebeck, you could use it too.
But you know what? It's funny because, you know, you look at the projections for the climate in the future, and this area is supposed to get much wetter, and the West is supposed to get much drier. It's almost like we could export it, like oil, right? Get a pipeline.
We could,
going
I
across the
mean,
country.
maybe Mamaroneck non-potable water. We could I don't know, ship it to neighboring communities and let them water their lawns with it.
Yeah. But Michael had the idea about the signs. What do you guys think about that? I think that's a good start too. I mean, a lot of this is what we're talking about is public relations, right?
Absolutely. And I think
Uh,
Mike's idea with the signs are fantastic.
Yeah, optics. It's all about optics.
So this is what I do. I mean, since this isn't really a village committee, it's a mayor's ad hoc committee. I would buy the signs out of, I have campaign money. I could, put up money to start the process. And I can make it a donation. And then as money comes in, one of you could collect the money and buy new signs and stuff like that this way. Because I don't want to, I can give the money as a donation to get started, right?
Right.
But I don't want to be in a business as an elected official of collecting money from anybody. Does that
Right.
make sense to you guys?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because you know what will go on in this village.
Yes.
Oh,
That's-
Murphy's over.
Murphy's the sign seller.
Yes, exactly. Oh, he figured out a way to make money on it.
Well,
I can see,
a couple of things there, Tom. Since we're doing this, I think what we need is some kind of identification. And we talked about this,
Yes.
saying that we're from the mayor's office and we're collecting information on
I will-
flood.
Well, right now, Lou, you're a trustee too, so you got,
Well, I can do that. Yeah, I
but
understand.
I will get something for everybody else.
Yeah, and I think we need a template, a script template, and then a form where we gather information so we can contact these people as we go along, because they will be resources that will help
Yeah.
us,
You-
politically as we try to come up with solutions.
Manny, do you want to work on that with Lou? Manny, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Can you work on that with Lou, doing the form?
Yeah. I absolutely will. Just send me a date and a time, and we can get on Zoom. I can host a Zoom with us. And I
Okay,
can create it with you.
all right.
And then Mike and Lou can work on videos and Tim and Laura, would you guys, and Manny, would you be amenable to being videoed for this?
Yeah, if we come up with something, absolutely.
Yeah, we've got, I got to tell you, Tom, we've got, Michael and I got a good half dozen great targets here.
Okay, we got some good ones here, so, I just want to make sure, I don't want to, in case they want to do it. I mean, Tim, you want to do it?
Yeah, I can assist. Yeah, I mean, yeah, sure, no problem.
Okay, and Laura?
Sure, whatever's needed.
All right, great. So let's look into that, and please, have your friends join and tell them to share their experiences. I know people are angry, but let's not try and get too much anger on this, because we want people, we want this to be about fixing the problem, right? We want this to be about what we can do to get the ball moving here. I'm gonna write something and I'll have it out to the village in the next week or so.
Yeah, Michael, what was the name of that guy that we both remarked had such a great story? Was it Michael Martinelli? About his-
let me take a look.
Yeah. It was, I mean, you wanted to just, he talked about his kids and trying to get his daughter back into school, and he didn't have a place to, to live there. She had to go to school somewhere else. And
Yeah.
he just looked like he was just beat up and tired.
Yeah, I think that was who it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he was
Goodness.
so grateful that we showed up and we're just interested in listening. And he thought nobody gave a crap.
People need to share their stories.
Yeah.
It's very important in life. I really do believe that. God knows, I'm a big believer in sharing my story and listening, but you got to listen to other people too.
Now, Michael, should we get Dina Schumacher involved in this, or do you want to use your equipment? How do we want to do this?
I definitely need equipment. So
Okay.
if we can get involved, I mean, I would love to, if everyone else wants to help set me up a little bit, I can definitely, I think, get to the point where, I can go and interview people and hand off the footage or even edit it and then hand it to you back.
Yeah, why don't we start? Maybe you and I and whoever else wants to come along. with Dina, and we'll do the first couple, and then we can see if it takes off on its own, because that's what Michael and Deborah and I did one day, and we realized we got kind of a rhythm going, and we realized that there's a lot there. We only knocked on about, what, a dozen, 15 doors, and realized that there's a whole universe of material there to uncover.
Yeah.
All right.
So I think it would be good if we could get small business cards, maybe a pamphlet about the Army Corps Engineer Plan, and then I could maybe try to submit two different lawn design signs for you if you'd like.
Yeah, why don't you make up the designs and send them to the whole group?
Okay.
Okay.
All right, you know,
So Michael's gonna do that then, right?
let's pick a date for next meeting.
Before we go, can I ask a question?
Of course.
Has anybody gone over to St. Vito's in the French American School and seen like what their plan is and, you know, when they're opening, how close are they to reviving that area? They were hit hard.
They're not open yet?
Nope.
I mean, that whole church is below ground, and they must have been just nuked.
Yeah. What
Yeah,
were they thinking?
I don't know. I mean, when they built the church, it was like they never. It's like they never built the church. It was like they only did
So
the basic.
Tom, a little history about that church. That church was built by the local Italians back in the early 1900s. St. Vito's.
No, I know, but that's not
Right.
the original structure.
Yeah, it is. That
No,
was built that way.
Structure was from the 50s.
That was originally built that way. There was no, you step up. This one you step down. St.
Yeah.
Vito's. That's the way it was designed.
I tell you, I did a
Money.
documentary
How to
about.
do it money.
I did a documentary in the city about Holy Trinity on the west side, and that's usually they would usually start that way. They would build the basement, and they would have a lower level, and then they would build the church above it, and then you would still have the lower level as a hall or an alternate worship area. It's like at St. Vito's, they never bothered to build a church. That's my feeling of it. It's
Right.
like
So I'm sure it was had to do with money because the original church was on Madison Street, the Italian
Right.
club on Madison Street. That was the old church.
Right.
So they had the local Italians there and whoever to build that. And so that structure came into funding. And the way you see it now is the way it was built. Now, I'm
Okay.
sure there's a lot of Italians in that area could tell you a lot more than what I'm telling you. But
No, I'd like to hear the story, actually, to tell you the truth.
yeah, from what we're told from Tony Fava when he was around,
He's still around, right? Oh, the old
uh,
25.
the old 25. Yeah, he said a lot of Italians built that. Carpenters, woodworkers,
Masons. Yeah,
yeah, volunteer work.
amazing. But it's a
Yeah.
Well, I don't-
beautiful church. It's just, for the area it's in to be underground like that, it's just like, wow.
Well, again, they didn't get hit like that either until.
Yeah, you're right. You're
So
right.
here's the big issue in the heart and soul of, you know, the flats and probably the first church besides Holy Trinity in our village, and nothing is being said about it.
Yeah, they got the whole place.
Yeah, and I got a map of Mamaroneck from 1867. And you look at the map and the area where the flats is now, they show it as marsh.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, there was nobody living there at the time. It was a marsh. So they probably, landfill and drains and everything else to try and, make it a livable area.
My house was built in 1868. Across the brook was called the Strawberry Patch, which literally was all strawberries.
Right,
And this was all farmland.
right.
So all of it was farmland to an extent. All the soil was growable. And the houses were really spaced out.
It was probably the only growable land around because you had the hills around it and they're all rocky.
Aquifer.
Yeah, exactly.
So.
All right.
All right, so is February, I can't do the, how's February 9th?
Okay. So February 9th, before then, we've got to do what? Michael's going to get sign ideas together.
Yes, and we're gonna keep promoting the
Template.
Facebook page. I'm gonna do like an essay about this. And you're gonna get people to join the Facebook page, and then we're gonna do interviews with people.
Okay, and Michael, should we start the interviews between now and then, or is that too soon?
I mean, I think we can at least like smaller little 5-minute video interviews. I think we
Alright.
could start that.
All right, I'll talk to
if-
Dina
if-
and see if it's, and I'll talk to Dina. I'll call this guy Martinelli and see if we can set up the first shoot. Okay.
Yeah, and then hopefully if it goes well, I wouldn't mind being able to film some people on my own too, just to optimize time.
Can,
All right,
can-
and-
can I
and-
make- can I make a suggestion
Mhm.
about the filming? When you get a person that's ready to film,
Yeah.
ask them to tell you the story before the camera gets on.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
No, wait up. Let them get it all out. And then say, all right, I want you to break that down to 5 minutes for people. But I think that don't limit them to 5 minutes the first time around, because they need to get the story out.
Right.
They need to unburden themselves of it. So, I don't want to tell somebody this is the first time they're ever talking about it. You only got 5 minutes.
I got it.
You know what I mean?
Tom, this
Yeah.
is,
Michael,
this is the one thing I know how to do.
I know.
hey, Michael, make sure you go over to where the kecks are, because that is like, they were
Yes.
14 feet underwater.
You know what
And
that is,
those
Mike, right?
houses, like, that's where my husband's old house was. And it went into my mother's kitchen, and the Stearns are there, and people are starting to sell their houses over there and flee. And that's scary when you've started to lose generations of people that are
Yep.
throwing their hands up.
And I'll do this.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Tom, I'll reach out to the pastor, see if I can find out who the pastor at St. Vito's is, and see if I can sit down and find out what their deal is.
Call Sally Roberts tomorrow. She'll get you the contact information.
Oh, that reminds me of one more thing about, since you mentioned talking to the pastor. Since we have so many people who come and volunteer each time there's a flood, including a lot of the same people or groups, we eventually can both film them, but also have them on their own media say, I hope the town can get the Army Corps of Engineer plan passed and stuff.
Excellent. Good thinking. All right, gang.
I think we're going to have an embarrassment of riches when it comes to that, Michael.
How about February 9th?
Yeah,
That works.
That works.
That
So
works.
Oh,
yeah, I think that works for me.
All right, gang. February 9th, 7 p.m.
You got it.
Sounds good. Mr. Mayor, if you could send me another invite for the Facebook.
Oh, you know what, Tim, I sent you a friend request. So add to my friend request, then because I can't send you an invite until you were friends. That's how it
Oh,
works.
I got to friend you. Okay, I got to friend you on your
Unless-
personal account.
Unless you don't want to friend me, that's okay.
No. That's cool. No. Good. Makes sense. So I'll go ahead and friend you then. Okay, no problem.
Small
Okay.
price to pay.
You can block me right after. All right,
Sounds
gang.
good.
Thank you all very much. I hope you all stay healthy, and I hope you all have a great year.
you
All right.
too.
You too. Take
God
care.
bless. Good
Bye-bye.
night.
Well,
Bye, take care.
Congratulations.